Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrible General Health Systems Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
All right, welcome to Bayou Time Sports. We're going to talk a little football with Mike Detillier, and no one better to talk football than Mike. And look, I'm in my warm-ups, Mike. I'm ready to go. But before we start just getting into individuals, I want to talk about the Manning camp. I think you and I were around in the days when they started. Archie it was a fledgling camp. But when you look at the characters that are going to be positioned to go to a Super Bowl throughout the NFL, a lot of those people came through the Manning camp. So it is just a testament to, first of all, how organized the camp was. Secondly, how driven they were to keep it going. That's the place to be.
Yeah, and you think about, I went when it was at Southeastern and at Tulane, and then got to give Rob Bernardi a lot of credit. He was the one who got it to come here to Nichols. Probably had 150 guys the first year, and it wasn't much, 150, 200 quarterbacks. Then all of a sudden, it started to expand, and they ran out of room at Southeastern, ran out of room at Tulane, and Nichols had all those fields, and it became a bonanza. But then it attracted Disney. Disney wanted the Mannings to go there, and Archie said, no, we'll keep it here. And so that was a big decision. But I sent this to Archie during the week. Of the 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL today, 22 of them went to Manning.
That's incredible when you think about it. But it's also incredible the amount of loyalty that Archie has. When he was a Saint, they had their training camp at Nichols at least a few times.
Yeah, like he said, he never saw mosquitoes that big. He said, man, listen, Ray ain't got nothing on them mosquitoes at that time. Right. You know, that was nothing but cane field at that particular time. So, yeah, for him to come down to do this every year, and now there's another generation because now they got Little Arch, who also be working these camps pretty soon here.
Yeah. So let's just talk, and on the next few segments, we're going to start talking about some of the players that came through the Manning camp and how successful they are, because it seems like the ones that came through the Manning camp progress. There's some exceptions, of course, but they progress, and they progress well. Not only quarterbacks, wide receivers, and everybody else that goes through it. But have you ever – I see the Mannings on all these commercials now. God, they're the face for Caesars. What a family. They're marketing geniuses, if you ask me, because they put themselves in a good position. So they come across as soft, and Peyton comes across as funny and goofy sometimes. But there's a lot of smarts there. Who's driving that train?
Archie's driving the train. And Peyton has taken the number 2 role with it, because – what he has done television-wise has been remarkable, because he could have taken other jobs. And he's admitted, I could be in the booth if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. Now they have him and Eli on the Monday night doing a little commentary. But it's remarkable how that lineage has continued, and now you got another one up in the fray. So, yeah, it's been a great run for them. And, you know, it's unbelievable that the little guy from Drew, Mississippi really started this. But, you know, can't leave out Olivia, too, because there's something involved with that, too. Mom had a lot to do with all of that and putting that down. So
she kept him steady at the wheel. But
and keeps Archie steady, too,
but
sometimes.
Then Cooper surfaces in these Caesars commercials, and everybody you talk to tells me he's the funny one.
No, he thinks he's David Letterman. I mean, you know, everything's a big joke with him, everything else, but he, of the three, is the funniest of the group. And but, you know, I think about all the stories from those Manning camps, though, throughout the deal. We were talking during the week on Sports Talk, and we had Archie on. He was like, Mike, remember when we almost got hit by Josh Allen? Now, he got bumped out of the playoffs last week. Right. But when we were there on the Thursday, Chris Carter was there filming, and he's getting some B-roll. And Josh Allen, big, like a lumberjack kid from Wyoming, he comes up, and he's at the 5-yard line. And we in the cart, me, Archie, and Lil Arch. And he said, Mike, tell your cameraman he better move. Because we had about the 20-yard line on the other side. I said, what do you mean? He has no way he's going to throw that ball this far.
It's 80 yards away.
And he's like, and no, the wind's blowing to him. So he's throwing it against the wind. He's like, I don't know. Well, he launched one on the sidelines. That was a receiver from Southern University. He got to about the 30-yard line. The ball kind of traveled a little bit, and we on the golf cart. Archie couldn't start it to move it out of the way. The ball hit the top of the golf cart and careened off. The Saturday, it had poured down rain, so all the footballs are wet. And Josh Allen threw a wet football 60 yards in flight. And I wasn't that far from Archie, and he turned around and he said, you ever seen something like that? I said, not with a wet football.
Right.
I mean, it was wet. And he launched that thing. And he was not the most accurate guy there, but you could see, man, he got talent.
He got pretty accurate.
And he got real accurate. And, we've seen all of these guys throughout the years come here, and what they want to, okay, they have talent. They're not coming here to be coached. They're coming here to learn how to play the game on the field and what to do off the field.
Yeah, they want to refine those talents. I remember the early days, and remember when, of course, a lot of people remember when Archie's son was going against the Saints and everybody was making a big deal. And this is how loyal Archie is. Everybody wanted a one-on-one interview. But he did the pool interview where he came out and the cameras were just packed in that room. When it was over, we were leaving. Fella taps me on the shoulder and says, hold on, just stay here for a little bit. So we stayed, and I was curious as to what he wanted. He was Archie's assistant, So when everybody cleared, he brought me around the corner, and Archie said, let's do an interview. Because of the Manning camp, and you've been there from the beginning. Archie's one of the most loyal people. So what that Manning camp has done, and my whole reason for saying this is his loyalty. He didn't go to Disney. He stayed there. He brought people to Thibodeau. The economic impact that it has in Thibodeau is incredible. But in Thibodeau, Louisiana, a lot of people playing in these playoffs came through that camp. Not only quarterbacks, there's a lot of receivers.
Yeah, and it's so funny that 3 of the 4 that are in the championship games were at Manning. I remember Pat Mahomes. He was there, and we were talking about him, and Archie was, we're not going to bring him out for the interviews, just after LSU had beat him up, sort of speaking to Texas. But he was good. He had this real squeaky voice.
Yeah.
And so he's walking from one practice session to the next. And we're doing the WWL show. And he comes he shakes hands with Bobby and I. And, hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? And Archie, Bobby was like, hey, you like the heat? He said, I like it, but not this hot. And the funniest thing is Oscar Lofton was there. And Pat was never one of these right over the tops type guys. And he was like, Patrick, set your feet, throw it over the top. And I'm standing not far from Archie. Archie hollers at him, hey, coach, let him throw it sidearm. I did it.
He did, yeah.
And so you think about that AFC championship game, him and Joe Burrow. Joe comes here, and he always called me coach. Hey, coach, we're gonna average 45 points a game this year at LSU. I said, what LSU? He said, what LSU? Come on, LSU at that time, 45 points a game. And he was brazen about the fact we're going to be great. We're going to be great this year. The last day of camp, he walks off the field. He said, Coach, got to ask you something. Man, Coach O's always on me for one thing and another. What gets under his skin? Come on, I know you know him. I said, well, what do you do? He says, well, I kind of talk back to him, if he talks to me, I talk, because he was aggressive.
Right.
I mean, that was just his demeanor. I said, you know what really gets him upset? Don't tell him anything. We go to a practice session at LSU a couple weeks later, and he walks off the field and he winks at me. Hey, Coach, how are you? I said, good. Everybody said, oh, I get it now. I get it now. But Joe came here and proclaimed he was the best quarterback at the Manning camp that year. And look where he is today. And to think Mahomes and him, two totally different personalities. Patrick barely raised his voice, and Joe was boisterous. I'm the guy. And then you look on the NFC side. Archie and I have spoke about this a lot. I don't think a guy's come to Thibodeau and thrown the football as well as Matt Stafford. That's what a quarterback. I remember Frank Monica told me, he said, Mike, that's what a quarterback looked like.
And I remember him then. You're right. He had everything. And, boy, the Rams made a big gamble bringing him switching quarterbacks, but because they got to the Super Bowl.
And
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff was there. We have an interview with Jared somewhere in your archives with Jared. He was there, and he talked about his dad and everything else. And I told him about, you might be the first overall pick in the draft come next year. And he was like, well, I might. But he was just glad to be here. He just wanted to be around the Mannings and learn how to do things the right way. That was his deal. I want to learn how to do things the right way.
And I think you make a good point. That's what they know they're going to get when they come to the Manning camp. It's not just going to be, we're going to go out there and we're going to have fun and we're going to go to the local pubs after and drink some beer. That's all part of it. But while we're there, it's going to be serious because those kids – or on Archie's mind, he wants those kids to get the best that they could get. It's all business when you get there.
It's all business, and he told a story about Josh Allen. They have all the counselors talk to the campers, and one kid raised up his hand. He was like, I want to know kind of how to handle recruiting. And Peyton was, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I'm sophomore. I've got 13 scholarship offers right now. So he said, well, maybe one of the guys can step forward. He said, Josh Allen looked at him and said, you better talk to somebody else. I only got one scholarship offer when I came out of high school. And Peyton stopped it. He said, goes to show you. Look at this guy. He got one offer.
One offer.
That's
incredible.
Wyoming. That was it.
That's incredible.
That was it. And so he said, ask Sam Darnold. And Sam, he was sort of sheepish about it. And he was like, yeah, I got 48. So you saw the yin and the yang. Compare them now, and you can't compare it. Cooper Kupp comes here, and Archie introduces me. He says, Cooper, I want to introduce you to somebody. This is Mike Detillier, and he remembers your dad, too. I played with your dad, with your grandpa.
Jake Kupp.
With Jake. He said, I played with your grandpa, but he said he knew your dad and your grandpa. And, you could tell he had an edge to him that, nobody's giving me a shot. And he ended up being the 74th overall pick that year as a receiver. 74th overall pick, though. And Archie calls me up right after he gets picked. He said, Mike, there ain't no way in the world 73 guys in this draft are better than Cooper Kupp. He won the Triple Crown this year in receiving. Odell Beckham comes in. They put on a show, him and Jarvis. My cousin Tim coached Jarvis at Lutcher. I remember going, watch him play against Vanderbilt. He made like 3 catches at the end of the game. The ball wasn't even close to his body. Stuck that hand out. Catch it. Him and Odell caught every pass one-handed at Manning camp.
The Manning camp is so, such a big deal now. I mean, Mike was telling you it started off slow, but boy, they had a vision. And not only did they benefit, Nichols benefited from the Manning camp for sure. Let's go back to that because you were mentioning Ian Book was doing something.
Ian Book was there.
He went to the camp, right?
Yeah, he was there, and we had a conversation with him last night. He's in California signing all those Panini cards now. It's no longer tops like when we were kids.
Right.
And he was like, man, it was hot that particular deal. But it had rained that Saturday, and he's like, man, it felt so good to feel that cool air hit you after you've been out in that heat. But you think about the quarterbacks in this league, I think overall, if my total is right, there are 73 quarterbacks in the NFL today that came and were at Manning. 73. And 22 of them were the starters. That's, to me, amazing how they were able to attract that group, and every year you see it. These guys are coming in from Washington and California and Penn State and whatever. They just want to almost through osmosis learn how to do things. And a lot of it isn't about talent and throwing the football. It's about film study, getting along with your teammates, techniques, mechanics, everything else. You talked about economic impact, and Vic LaFont told me that the economic impact of manning the Louisiana Line camp and Dr. Elias's camp is almost $3 million a year. Now think about that. You in the dead of summer, there ain't nothing going on.
Right.
And that economic impact, and not everybody feels it, but when you have that much stretch, a lot of people feel it.
And Flanagan's and Freeman's and Rocco's place.
Hotels,
Yeah.
you can't get them.
Yeah.
I've talked to Ian Book's mom and dad, could not get a room close. They stayed in New Orleans and traveled each day back and forth, but they'd stop at Spars.
Who's the one, you perfect person to ask this. I know who you're going to say. At least I think I know. But I'm going to let you say it anyway. Who's the one quarterback that Archie and Eli and Peyton always wanted to get to that camp, but they never could get him?
Ooh, that's a good question. Tua Tagovailoa was one. They tried 2 straight years and could not get him. For one reason or another, could not get him to come here. This is pre-Tom Brady.
Right.
So it's not even, Brady couldn't even, at that time, he was far gone from it. But it's just been an unbelievable camp to see it. The most impressive guy I ever saw throw a football was Matt Stafford. I've never seen another guy throw the ball as accurate and with that length and stretch the field like Matt could.
So
and he did it with ease.
But so when you get a guy like that and you look at him, automatically, when I see him not get to the next level, which he is now, but we're going to see, you gotta think maybe there's a mental block. So once they get over that mental block, though,
That was it.
yeah, once you get past that mental block,
But
you're rolling.
The 2 best arms, Jamarcus Russell, and we know he had issues off the field.
Right.
But he could throw a football it was unbelievable. He was on one knee and just launching these passes 55, 65 yards downfield on a knee doing it. And Josh Allen would be the other one, because I've never seen a guy throw the football against the wind like that, and then a wet football.
I have my cousin, Curtis Leonard, who's my mama's, he's the son of my mama's brother. His son played for Texas Tech. So Patrick Mahomes came to their house several times, and he says that Patrick Mahomes is one of the nicest,
Really nice
kid.
guy.
He ain't a kid no more. Nicest guys you'll ever be around.
Yeah, and like I said, he had this real squeaky voice when he talked to you like that, and I thought maybe he was just a little nervous, but then you see that's how he really talks. But he throws the football like you would expect a baseball player to throw it. And you could see the baseball background, and his dad was a former Major League Baseball player. It never is how you would draw it up. But the one thing, when he came to Manning, he made the comment, they didn't try to change my delivery. They were all about his feet. Set your feet. Make sure you make the throw with your feet.
And I'm glad they didn't change it, because you see these linemen with their hands up sometimes. If he would go overhead, they'd knock it down. He throws it on the side. He slings it on the side of him.
You saw against the Bills a couple times, Gregory Rousseau, who's 6'7", he throws his hands up in the air, and he would throw that thing, he'd go right underneath his elbow. And it's like, wow, okay, he couldn't over the top throw it because Rousseau's batting it right back to you.
He's almost like the Steph Curry of football. Steph Curry came in and did his shot looked a little funny, or he slinged it. Nobody argues with that.
No,
They do their own thing.
No, you can't teach a Steph Curry like when we grow up. I went to 2 Pete Maravich camps, and we were like in awe. Okay, Pete can do that? You're not even close. I mean, you're not even in the same area code, and Mahomes can throw a football like that from every angle, and that's what's impressive.
Hold that thought. All right, we're going to come back. We're talking a lot more with Mike Detillier. Don't go away.